Roman Bryce, 635 Garden Street. I have a series of questions, actually. Some of these are from readers as well, so please bear with me. The first question on the 10% reductions that you mentioned earlier, I understand that that doesn't represent union contracts that you're still discussing. However, does it include the whole hospital authority itself?
Well, first of all, the authority of volunteers are not getting paid, so it doesn't include.
You take 10%.
You guys don't get anything.
We're unpaid community representatives.
Well, everything is paid through the authority, right?
Right, but what I'm saying is, when you say authority, the authority members are volunteers on their salary. Everybody that Hudson Health and below is 10%, no exceptions, except myself, and I put a letter out, you can have a copy of it. I told the employees I'll take 15% reduction, and it was to show leadership that if I'm asking you for 10, I'm willing to take the everybody else is 10. Management, employee positions, everybody that gets a paycheck will payroll is 10%.
Okay. And there's people here that are on the payroll, is that correct, tonight, other than yourself?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I thought maybe I'm here. Yeah, all of our managers, all are included in the 10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and
for your readers, note that I said 15 for myself.
I will make sure to note that.
I'm sure I'll get blamed. I'm sure it'll be, oh, this guy should take 30, should take 40% off.
You could talk to me about it next time. How are consultants reduced? I'm sure you have consultants on staff.
Yes.
And is it done on an hourly basis, or on a monthly invoice? How are you calculating reductions on consultants?
We've gone, for some of the consultants, there are contracts. For example, Mr. Sorinsky, who's our legal counsel, has a contract. So actually, in his case, to his credit, I didn't even have to go to him because as part of the discussions of, the budget, he gave it up. He said, I'm giving up the 10% because I want to be where everybody else is. In other cases, we bring them in and we renegotiate those contracts. For example, there are some physician contracts that we renegotiated that they're not employees, they're consulting positions. Vendors that we've gone to and asked them for 10% reduction. But it's a vendor by vendor, contract by contract, because there are these are legal contracts that you have to do that. I have to say, report that I with a little bit of pressure, and you may want to believe it or not, in terms of this part of the little pressure, I did get Mr. Holdsworth to forego his December payment. So, I know some of you have talked a lot about, Mr. Harvey's payment, but, I asked him, there was lively discussion, and he agreed, and he has finished his payment as of November 30th, so that we don't have to pay the December payment.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of those types of expenses, overall, have you come up with an approach on expense reduction separate from the employees?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There are levels, and I don't want to be quoted as having Plan B. There's Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. There's levels of plans. Right now, the most feasible plan that we're putting forward, and we discussed with DCA, is that we have to fund a $12 million potential operating loss, which we see is about the run rate, plus the $2 million negative fund balance that DCA requires us to make up in 2010, so it's $14 million. What we said to DCA is we've come up with $7 million on our own by doing these initiatives, and we need $7 million in stabilization money. Then there's Plan C and Plan D. They become more and more austere, and what you have to be careful is at what point do you hit the balance of a sound business decision that makes sense to now you're cutting into muscle and bone. And if you do that, whatever that may be, and I'm not prepared to tell you B and C because they're just too austere. If you do that, is that going to be then compromised? The one thing, compromise the operation from a business standpoint. The one thing I will tell you is that as a CR will never do, I will never run a hospital that is not safe and clean and appropriately staffed, because I will not compromise patient safety or comfort. It's just not the way to do it.
Okay.
Whatever we do.
Okay. On the primary approach to the expenses outside of the employee's salary, you have approximately 50 departments, correct? In terms of how you break things down?
At least 50, yes.
Okay, so roughly, for the initial plan, do you have a general approach to the expenses, something that you've dictated to those 50 departments in terms of what they need to do for their overall expenses?
Yeah, let me address that for a minute. We have an approximate expense level of $136 million. 61 is salary. I said before, 4 is overtime, is 65. Benefits is 30.
Benefits, no.
25.
Benefits is about 20 plus.
Where I'm getting there is with benefits and salaries and overtime alone, and then 401k contributions and so on, you top $90 million. Then you add to that other sort of less flexible types of expenses like additional call fees.
Like 31.
Well, no, before I get to that. So you got that probably brings you closer to 100 plus. So what you've left over on the non-salary, non-personnel is very, very little. And that's why our plan focuses primarily on reducing labor costs. Labor costs is almost 80% of our costs. You can't, reduce too much of, how many gauzes do I need when I do surgery and how many disposable gloves I need. Now, we've asked all our members, we've gotten commitment from all department heads as well as employees, to really watch out for savings in any area, even in my personal email, and have solicited any feedback from anybody. And as I said to the members, by having to give up, actual money out of the pocket to make the place balance in 2010, it becomes personal. So I think there'll be a little more vigilance in terms of any cost-saving opportunities or any waste that may be going on that somebody notices, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. In terms of the actual expenses by department, I'm sure you guys have that broken down, and outside of the employee costs, we'd like to know if we could get a year-over-year comparison by department on the expenses. Would we be able to get that?
A year-over-year, in other words, you're talking about
your fiscal year.
2009 to budget 2010?
Yeah, and 2008.
8, 9, and 10?
Yeah.
By major department? I think we can buy it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
But the 2010, just so we're clear, it's still being developed, so we will have a final draft at least in January for the board to consider. So I probably couldn't get that to you before that.
No, that's more than reasonable. In terms of hiring, right now your website has a number of positions that you're looking to hire, and I'm wondering if you're considering any type of hiring freeze, and if part of that you would consider certain positions that you deem yourself as critical that you would provide an exemption. Are you considering such an approach?
General answer, no. We're not considering a hiring freeze, and I'll tell you why. Hiring freezes are arbitrary, capricious in most cases, and artificial, and they don't last and they don't mean anything, because if the nurse quits in the emergency room and you need an extra nurse, the hiring freeze won't do anything. Actually, one of the questions that, you have to hire the nurse anyway. One of the questions that the members asked was, if we, and I say members, I mean employees, but I'm still in my union discussion, and I always refer to them as members of the collective bargaining unit. But one of the things they asked was, well, are you going to take 10% of our salary if we agree to this, and then on top of it, leave us short-handed to do the work by instituting a hiring freeze? And the whole concept here is to reduce your expenses but keep the bodies in place that you need to do the work. So no, there won't be a general hiring freeze. Within that, though, I will tell you that select positions, for example, we need a chief medical officer, desperately, but we're not going to make that decision until we have a better handle on our expenses, because it's an expensive position. So there's some that we're going to put on hold. For example, another example is my replacement. I